Method of obtaining cooperation. Now, the questions arise: how may we accomplish this? How may we work as individuals whose purposes will be in accord with His will? To answer these we must look within to the little things that go to make up our very nature. We must guard our daily thoughts and acts, and must, through meditation, awaken our inner selves. In the daily walk of life let us take stock of our thoughts and acts. For cooperation is the offering of self to be a channel of activity, of thought. It is not attained at once, but comes line upon line, precept upon precept, through the giving of self. We must realize that, they who would have life must give life. They who would have love must show themselves lovable. They who would have friends must be friendly. They who would have cooperation must cooperate by giving self to that which is to be accomplished, whether in bringing light, strength, health, or understanding to others. These are one in Him. Let us replace our negative thoughts with positive ones, thinking not unkindly of anyone but speaking and thinking kindly of all. Let us practice thinking kind thoughts of those who have hurt us, letting no opportunity pass to do a little act of kindness that will lighten the burden of another. We should live as we know He would have us live. Begin now. Work. Work diligently and consistently. Let us take thought continually of the attitude of mind we hold. For it makes for that which gives birth to peace, harmony, and understanding, or it brings forth the contending forces that make for unrest and trouble. We will find, when we would do right, that the spirit of unrest is ever present. But day by day this should be put out of our minds and more replaced by thoughts of peace, harmony, and understanding, not a latent kind, but an active force. This is the manner in which we give expression to that being sought. It is a oneness of mind, a oneness of purpose, which we must all seek. The virtue in the knowledge of God, His laws, His precepts, not to the advantage of self, but for others, not for self-edification, but that power and strength may emanate from us to others less strong. Let us seek harmony. For harmony makes for peace, and peace makes for understanding, and understanding for enlightenment. We of ourselves can do nothing. So let us, in meditation, seek the knowledge of the inner light. Set aside a time each day for prayer and meditation, preferably at sunrise, quiet the physical body, purify the emotions, and wait on the Lord. Let us draw nigh unto God and He will draw nigh unto us. As we enter into meditation, let us visualize the force of harmony and love in action. As we put into practice that which we know of cooperation in deed and in thought, there will come to us His peace which passes understanding, and the realization of being His channel. He has promised that power, strength, joy, life, and light will not be withheld from those who seek this oneness in His name. Prayer is supplication for direction, for understanding. Meditation is listening to the divine within. Prayer is supplication to God and meditation is listening to His answer. Learn that quiet first within self, from within, through those applications not only of the material things but from the counsel and meditating from within self, and ye shall stand approved unto Him, wherein there may be the peace and harmony and joy of a life lived in an active service for not only thy fellow man but, forgetting self, pressing on to the mark of the higher calling set in Him, to that day when ye shall stand as a light to many, as a guide to those in the dark ways, and proclaim the acceptable year of thy Lord. Meditate. Meditation means entering into the spiritual vitalization of the energies of the system, by raising those forces through the very activities of procreative actions. Read Meditation first chapter in A Search for God, Book 1, and apply it, practically, the experience of self. Know deep within the heart and soul that ye are a child of the living God. The earth and the fullness, though, is His and with thy trust wholly in Him as thy guide, through prayerful meditations as to choices to be taken here, and not just hunches but rather as with the voice within, there is little that this entity may not accomplish. Then set definite periods for prayer, set definite periods for meditation. Know the difference between each. Prayer, in short, is appealing to the divine within self, the divine from without self, and meditation is keeping still in body, in mind, in heart, listening to the voice of thy Maker. Considering home and church environment we have attempted to create for our children, why do so few take an active interest in the church? Have ye practiced as ye preached? Are ye to judge or thy Maker? Remember, God is the only appreciator of men's attempt or try. Man, poor, miserable man, acts as judge. What can I do to bring about a cooperative effort in the Baptist Church? Just live that, practice that, which is according to the promptings of thy own conscience, not condemning any, but tolerant to all. The entity has been and is in its abilities and in its urges almost a contradictory individual. For that oft it would do, it does not, or that it preaches, it does not practice too well in its own experience. That it would require of others, is it not guilty of the same in its own self, else how would it know to find the fault in the other fellow? The faults ye find in the other fellow are as in the looking glass of that concept of thy Maker, and ye know ye are already in error when ye find all of God, then, that ye may know is that ye use and apply daily in thy relationships with others. For as ye do it unto others, ye do unto thy Maker. There is set before thee today and every day, good and evil, life and death, choose thou the holy way. For as ye keep his precepts, he hath promised, thy body is indeed the temple of the living God, and he will meet thee there. As ye pray, as ye meditate, he may speak with thee. For he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and will be thy God if ye will be his people. Would it be wise for me to teach in the same school another year, or would some other prove more beneficial? If so, what school? If this is agreeable, and if there is the giving out of self for helpfulness, stay where you are. As we find, there needs to be a better correlation with spiritual atmosphere, spiritual reactions within self. Be not only good, be good for something. Know as to what the purposes are within this present experience, and so live that these may be manifested in the life day by day. This is a well-chosen vocation to be of helpfulness to others, but practice that ye preach in the experiences of those about you. How may I be of greater service to humanity through the work in which I am now engaged? Thy prayers heard, thy acceptance, then hold fast. For it is not by some great deed but rather the little leaven that leaveneth the whole lump. For here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. Be not impatient but in due season ye shall see and know and hear, thou good and faithful servant, enter thou into the joys of thy Lord. What changes should I make in my work here at this time, if any? Not any in the immediate. As the opportunities come for the greater expansion and development in those fields of activity as indicated, give a word here, a word there. Here a little, there a little, ye may give out to those who seek for physical aid a great mental awakening also. This will be gradual, but the expansion should begin soon. Do I still need to unfold in an individual way before helping others in any definite way? In helping, in giving out to others may the unfoldment come, not in those things that would become as evil spoken of, but in little acts of kindness, little words here and there, for little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept, does one gain in self, and add to others. For it is line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Not some great deed then to show forth the love of the Father God, but just being kind, just being patient, just being humble. These show forth in thy dealings with thy fellow man day by day that ye indeed walk, ye indeed talk, with thy Maker, who has promised to meet thee in the Holy of Holies within thine own self. Then, in thy daily dealings with others, forget not to interpret the lesson, the problem of the day, from a spiritual angle. Not that as of a goody-goody manner, not that as of rote for rote's sake, but, as is expressed in nature, step by step, line by line, precept upon precept, because it gives such security in life and its expressions in the earth as to make same more worthwhile. Like begets like. Those things that are positive and negative forces combine to form in a different source, or different manifestation, the combinations of which each element, each first principle manifested, has gained from its associations, in its activities, that which has been brought to bear by self or that about it, to produce that manifestation. From Jupiter, we find that the entity is ever ready to help a friend, yet often the entity finds self in the opposite extreme when requiring or desiring a friend to help the entity feels they have forgotten the friendship shown. These are not true laws. For in the manifestation of spirit and mind and matter, like begets like, if the entity shows itself friendly, there will be friends. If the entity manifests itself in those things pertaining to a universal consciousness, that is the good for all rather than the individual or individual group. Courting favor with others, that there may be favor shown self is not so good, unless it is prompted by a universal desire to be of help in many directions. Is there any specific direction or activity in my present business that would lead to greater productivity and outlet for my talents and abilities? As ye would that others should do to you, do ye so to them. This is not merely a tale or an axiom, but this in action creates greater actions that offer opportunities in business, in social, in the economic forces, in home relations and those of every nature. There is one particular individual with whom I am having special difficulty. How can I best work this out? If the conditions were reversed, how would you have him treat you? These should answer, in thy concept of right and wrong. Though it may seem or appear little, it is the little word that ye may say, it is the little kindness that ye may do, that is the greater service ye may render in this experience, in bringing to thine own self, as well as to others, that of peace and harmony and joy and hope. Please outline definitely what I should do to meet this situation and bring about harmonious conditions, so that our home may be transformed into the atmosphere of happiness for the benefit of all, especially for the sake of our children. As indicated, here a little, there a little, add to the good thou hast in all its phases, bringing all together in harmonious activity, not by merely wishful thinking and the attempting to give same to the individual, but by expressing a universal truth. And it will bring more and more harmony in the experience. Saw someone wearing a dress which I copied and wore. As I tried on left sleeve it was very tight. They told me that is the way it should be. Make me too, just like this, I said. This again is the manifestation of the awakening subconscious forces from within, as is shown in the putting on of apparel. The greater lesson that should be gained from this is that of the ability to judge for self as the mental awakening comes to the individual for others. As is shown in the ordering of two, that physical element that enters in with the mental of this entity, I, too, will see those conditions as are made manifest to others. Then gain this, that the individual must awaken, seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For thoughts are deeds and may become miracles or crimes, as the will of the individual finds physical manifestation of same in the material world, for to many minds, those conditions that in one is sin, in another is a glorification of the gifts as are manifest through the individual. Then, study from the vision obtained in self, correlating same with that desire to show self acceptable unto him, the giver of all good and perfect gifts, making manifest in word, action, and deed those lessons gathered, little by little, line upon line, giving them, for that is service to all. As is known by the entity, as is the portion of the entity's own inner self, as one sows so shall one reap. It is not sufficient, however, for any to live by mere trite sayings or to announce to be tolerant or to be patient or to be any of those attributes of the spiritual forces that may manifest themselves through the activities of an entity. Rather must there be little by little, here a line, there a line, the living, the manifesting, of all of these attributes in the experiences of an individual. For as it is meted to those of the fellow man, so will the returns come in the experience of the entity in its associations in the new activities or in those that are a portion of the entity's experience in the present. For it is not by might nor by power, not by that which may be used to enable one through fame or fortune, or through even the associations of the past, to become as a power, but that which is lived, expressed, given to others as a helpful, hopeful influence in their experience day by day. Thus applying self in the experiences in the present may we find that coming into the experience of the entity which, in body, in mind, may give the greater expression of development for self, for those that are in the material world dependent upon the activities of the entity. So may the entity make for itself that advancement. What is meant by stating that the entity, 1265, is a sensitive in the present experience? As has been indicated, the entity hears, sees, feels that which he may not put into words, into terms, into understandings to others, but to the entity is comprehensive. Or as may be termed by some, the entity sees visions, experiences voices, is subject to those influences that manifest themselves in various forms or manners. As has been indicated, because of the manner in which the entity has applied those experiences through the sojourns in the earth in the present, as relative to creative forces. For these are as set rules, law, God, love, creative force, whatever term we may express same in. What ye sow, ye reap. The mind is the builder. God is, man is. And the mind is a portion of both the soul and the spirit, the directing force, and is also of the earth earthy. Hence the injunction that has been given, be ye of one mind, one purpose, in Christ. As the entity has thought on same and experienced same, this has grown more and more, though the confusions in those influences as indicated have at times made for ups, downs, in the material plane. Those influences also, as in Jupiter, make for that broadness of influences, in the various characters of conditions respecting peoples, places, and the social and religious, or moral life of many individuals, as well as those that make for such changes in groups, classes, and masses, and even nations. Again there should be those warnings in accord with same, as to that which the body in its formative years and periods reads, or studies, or considers, as that molds its opinions as respecting that as may be made, or held by others, as well as self, as the ideals of peoples. Not in the prohibitive manner, rather in the counsel that which the body-mind feeds upon, the subconscious forces accept as true, and the soul and spiritual body either become overfed or starved under those things that do not accord with that of a spiritual development. Not as those that would make long faces, or counsels that would become as those of strange conditions, or make for estrangements that there may be some moral aptitude or condition considered in the relationships and associations, but rather in that manner as, seek ye the Lord in thine youth, when he may be found, when his ways may easily be made thy ways, and when thou art old he will not depart from thee. Seek to know how, and the way in which, all blessings, understandings, all knowledge, comes from the closer knowledge of the living forces in a material existence, that bespeak of the manifestations of a God Spirit in the material world. What are the physical weaknesses from this period of a former incarnation? The inability to often coordinate the great visions with practicability in action. This may be confusing to the entity in the present. This does not signify impracticability in self, save at periods when there are discussions as to activities of personalities as relating to acts or deeds within themselves, as it influences or acts upon others. The vision, then, within self, is present as of old. The impracticability of their being personal, individual, or single, or separated from the whole, becomes impractical, in the mind of the present entity. Hence that injunction as has been given, to build ye in the now, in the present, when there may be a whole understanding in self, little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, for the words of the mouth and the meditations of the heart should be in accordance with one another, cooperating one with another. Hence may the Spirit of truth, the life, the light of the world, enter in. How can I externalize my deep spiritual urges better, or bring them to the conscious mind? As ye did in the Atlantean experience, as ye did in the holy city. It is with patience. For, as an Atlantean, as an Uranian, ye jump to conclusions, ye expect many to follow suddenly. They are not capable of doing so. It is little by little, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Give expression each day, in each association, in each activity, in such a way that ye bring hope, faith, the seeking of the better in self that is in others. This is done by the smile, the cheery word, the better expression of minimizing the faults and magnifying the virtues in all. For, it behooves none of us to speak unkindly of the worst of us, no matter how little, mean or unthoughted. For, the good, the image of the Maker, is there. How may this entity be helped so as to make friends and get along easily with others? If one would have friends, one must show self-friendly. This is not merely as an idiom, or as a saying, but truth. This should not be merely preached at the entity, but practiced with the entity. Allow a great deal more of the visions to be expressed by the entity. And seek counsel from the entity as to the little things about the home, entertaining, friends and the like. For, there are ideas. Hence give them the opportunity for expression, and not preach at the entity. Who may tell the rose how to be beautiful? Or the incense as to what beauty it may raise in those for whom it is offered? Love the Lord. Keep his ways. For thou hast chosen well. Be the helper here, there. For, as ye have learned, it is indeed here a little, there a little, line upon line and precept upon precept in which the growth comes to those who seek. Cast not thy pearls before swine. No, as ye have found, only those who seek may find. For as he gave, he came not to save those who are satisfied but those who hunger for the Lord, for the knowledge of him. And to these minister thou, in thy counsel, in thy help, in all manners as ye have through thy sojourns in the earth. Thus indeed may thy star shine before others, that others seeing thy works may take hope and thus bring the glorious day of him, who is the light of the world, into the consciousness of others. As we find, these are wonderful experiences for this body, even in the suffering and in the trouble, if the body will only accept it as such. Ye have taught, ye have preached it in thy literature and thy activities, as to how and as to what spirituality, practically applied in the life of the individual, should create for its environ, if the mental and body mind is the builder of the body. Why not try practicing it in self? These are not harsh words, nor meant to be harsh, but the lack of proper eliminations is the source of infection that causes arthritic tendencies. In the natural consequence of the mind, in reason, this should indicate to such a wonderful, a beautiful mind as this entity, the lack of self-control, the holding back in self of those things that should be stressed in mind, in body. These are indications of the nature of disturbance in the mental self, if the soul purpose is in the right direction. And who could question here the purpose of this entity? Then, in bringing about proper attunement of soul purpose, mind activity, the body results should be creative and helpful, just as the attempt in the mind structure here to create that environ for others. Can one teach greater truths than one practices in one's own life? Yes, for out of the mouths of babes comes the wisdom of the ages. For the sole purpose is set in the oneness of creative forces. How or what can I do to help my husband abundantly fill all of his indebtedness, cancel same, and demonstrate enough over to meet our every need with a surplus to bless the world? Oh, that all, and the self with same, would gain that consciousness. Use thou me, O Lord, as thou seest that I, as thy servant, may serve you better. And to be, then, in whatsoever position ye find thyself, not satisfied, but spiritually, mentally, content. For without contentment no peace may be had. But if peace is found, if harmony is obtained in self, then may there be the greater outpouring of the blessings of the Father, whether in material, mental or what not, upon thee and thy household. How gave he of old? Seek first the kingdom of heaven, have it within, and all these things may be added unto thee in their respective places. This ye know, this ye see, but to be busy at same is the greater problem of every individual, which comes back to that which has so oft been given, so in thy conversation, in thy daily activity, the seed of the Spirit, and leave the results with the Father. What is meditation? It is not musing, not daydreaming, but as ye find your bodies made up of the physical, mental, and spiritual, it is the attuning of the mental body and the physical body to its spiritual source. Many say that ye have no consciousness of having a soul, yet the very fact that ye hope, that ye have a desire for better things, the very fact that ye are able to be sorry or glad, indicates an activity of the mind that takes hold upon something that is not temporal in its nature, something that passeth not away with the last breath that is drawn, but that takes hold upon the very sources of its beginning, the soul, that which was made in the image of thy Maker, not thy body, no, not thy mind, but thy soul was in the image of thy Creator. Then, it is the attuning of thy physical and mental attributes seeking to know the relationships to the Maker. That is true meditation. How do you accomplish same? How would ye as an individual go about learning to meditate? For, ye must learn to meditate, just as ye have learned to walk, to talk, to do any of the physical attributes of thy mind as compared to the relationships with the facts, the attitudes, the conditions, the environs of thy daily surroundings. Then, there must be a conscious contact with that which is a part of thy body physical, thy body mental, to thy soul body or thy superconsciousness. Then, purify thy mind if ye would meditate. How? Depending on what is thy concept of purification. Does it mean to thee a mixing up with a lot of other things, or a setting aside of self, a washing with water, a cleansing or purifying by fire or what not? Whatever thy concept is, be true to thine inner self. Live that choice ye make, do it. Not merely say it but do it. Purify thy body. Shut thyself away from the cares of the world. Think on that as ye would do to have thy God meet thee face to face. That he gave of old is as new today as it was in the beginning of man's relationship or seeking to know the will of God, if ye will but call on him within thine inner self. Know that thy body is the temple of the living God. There he has promised to meet thee. And when thou art shown, turn not thy face the other way, but be true to the vision that is given thee. And he will speak, for his promise has been, when ye call I will hear, and will answer speedily. Then, when he speaks, open thy heart, thy mind to the opportunities, to the glories that are thine, if ye will but accept them through that attuning through meditation of thy consciousness, thy desire to the living God, and say and live within thyself as he of old gave, others may do as they may, but as for me, I will worship, yea, I will serve the living God. He is not far from thee. He is closer than thy right hand. He standeth at the door of thy heart. Will ye bid him enter? Or will ye turn away?